Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I'd just like to begin by acknowledging that we're meeting on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. I want to express my gratitude and reaffirm the Ontario Green Party's commitment to the truth and reconciliation process. For 2 years now, farmers in Wilmot have been fighting to protect their land and the countryside line from expropriation. Now Waterloo Region is facing a water capacity crisis. Meanwhile, the government continues to approve corporate water taking permits and to force urban boundary expansions onto municipalities all across Ontario that go beyond what is sustainable and responsible according to professional land use planners. The Ford government is forcing their bad planning policy onto municipalities, putting our water, food security, and agri-food economy at risk. A minister at Queen's Park should not be able to overrule responsible local planning in order to benefit wealthy investors and land speculators. But Doug Ford continues to bulldoze ahead with a plan to pave over farmland that local farmers desperately need to grow and build their businesses. This has real implications on people's lives. You know, last summer I visited Wilmot and I met with a cabbage farmer who lives right across the road from where the 770 acres will be expropriated. And this farmer told me about the stress she's facing and the excruciating decision she's trying to make about how to make her farm sustainable and profitable, knowing that the land right next door will be expropriated. She was debating over and over again, you know, does she have the stability and security and confidence to be able to make an investment in an on-farm processing plant that would turn her cabbage into sauerkraut, a higher value-added product. She ultimately made the decision to do that. But these decisions by the Ford government and this farmer's experience is just one of numerous examples across the province where farmers are struggling to make decisions around the kinds of investments they're going to make in their farm operation, given the threats to farmland that's happening in Ontario right now. And we simply cannot afford to continue to lose 319 acres of farmland each and every day in Ontario, the equivalent of 1 in 9 family farms every week being lost. That's exactly why the MPP for Haldeman Norfolk, Bobby and Brady, and I have put forward Bill 21 to protect farmland, not only in Wilmot, but in places all across Ontario. So I'm pleased today to be joined by WilmotCAN, and I'd like to welcome next to the podium Kevin Thomason, a local organizer and the head of the Grand River Environmental Network. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Just over 2 years ago, lawyers from an unfamiliar land acquisition company in America showed up in rural Wilmot Township that's located between the cities of Kitchener-Waterloo and Stratford, telling farmers they had 10 days to accept a ridiculously low offer for their farms or face immediate expropriation by the government. No one in Ontario should be told they have 10 days to give up their homes, their businesses, their livelihoods, and almost everything they have known, sometimes for generations, to have the government take it from them with no explanation or rationale. As dismayed landowners started calling each other, they realized the sheer scope and size of what was being proposed. A massive mega-industrial site, more than 8.5 kilometers in circumference. That's larger than Disneyland, California. It's a huge tract of the best and most protected farmland in Canada, a distant 50-kilometer round trip from the nearest urban centers. The community immediately banded together, launched the fight for farmland and the Wilmot Civic Action Network to fight this massive unknown development. We've distributed more than 4,500 lawn signs, organized huge rallies, including a kilometer-long line of tractors through our cities, and gathered tens of thousands of petition signatures.
Thank you, Kevin. Today, I'm asking you to seriously consider what is being proposed for our agricultural township of Wilmot, and what we stand to lose. It is transformed into the fourth largest urban city alongside Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, against all previous planning and prime farmland protections. Because this isn't just another development. This is a permanent transformation of our municipality and region being pushed forward without transparency, without answers, and without public consent. And it fits a very troubling pattern we are increasingly seeing from this Doug Ford Conservative government, be it Ontario Place, the Science Centre, or the Greenbelt, where all decisions are being made in secret with no public consultation or proper planning processes, no financial details, and all freedom of information requests are refused. Let's start with what we don't know about this Wilmot Mega Industrial Land Assembly. This project is hidden behind a strict provincial non-disclosure agreement. There is no known customer for this massive site, no clear purpose, no studies ever released, no financial costing or information at all. There has never been a single public meeting since this started over 2 years ago. And yet, despite such a huge lack of information, we are being told to trust elected officials who won't even meet with us or provide any information, including refusing to answer any of the 42 Freedom of Information requests that we have filed asking just the most basic questions about this proposed mega industrial development. After 2 years of appeals, working with a very concerned Auditor General, Integrity and Privacy Commissioner, Provincial Ombudsman, mediators and adjudicators, it now appears that pending legislation just announced is going to cancel these FOIs and allow Cabinet and the provincial government to continue their act in total secrecy. Jody?
Meanwhile, our friends, the affected farmers and landowners, have endured relentless, intense pressure to give up their land. Imagine the stress of running a multi-million-dollar business each day while the government threatens to take it all away. The concern and opposition has been overwhelming in Wilmot Township. Agriculture is not just a part of our identity. It is our most successful and essential industry. Our farmers are some of the best in Canada, making more profit per acre than almost any other municipality in Canada. While Waterloo Region is famous for high-tech, world-leading universities, financial services, and advanced manufacturing, it's agriculture and food processing that generate more revenue and employ thousands more people than any other industry. This industry feeds our families, it drives the provincial economy, and sustains our future, ensuring the food sovereignty that we need so much these days. And yet this government is prepared to destroy more than the corn crops it already destroyed. We'll lose dairy farms, vegetable farms, award-winning cheese production, lavender and maple syrup production, along with thousands of bushels of corn, soybeans, and other important local food. If this project moves forward, our population is expected to nearly triple. Tens of thousands of people never planned for in an agriculturally and ecologically sensitive area on the Waterloo Moraine. We don't even have enough water for our current citizens and rates of growth, much less an industrial megasite.
Thank you, Jody. MPP Catherine Fife brought up the Region of Waterloo's water crisis in the legislature last week. A crisis so dire that for the past 4 months, there has been a full moratorium on all development approvals. Over 500,000 people have been told we've run out of water capacity, and billions of dollars of construction is at a standstill while thousands of jobs are on the line. Our economy is suffering. Major deals are being canceled. Developers and investors are panicking, and this water crisis dominates daily headline news and area newspapers, radio, and television. Our community and environmental groups have repeatedly warned about our delicate water system and balance. We don't have big pipes to the Great Lakes like the rest of the GTA. We have only the water within our regional boundaries, and we have to live within the carrying capacity of our Grand River watershed. For years, our visionary, award-winning regional official plans carefully balanced growth and environmental protection, ensuring our Mennonite farms thrived, protecting our moraines and groundwater recharge areas, and our cities had access to the needed natural resources to continue our strong growth and leading success. Unfortunately, our vulnerable moraines and wetlands were never included in the provincial Greenbelt. Then, since Doug Ford was elected 8 years ago, we have seen the provincial government repeatedly act with no regard to our unique situation of one of the most complicated groundwater systems in the world. John.
We have had over 100 major water-taking permits approved by the province without study, huge gravel pits approved by the ministry regardless of concerns, our visionary official plans overridden with thousands of acres of forced urban boundary expansions destroying essential farmland, unnecessary urban sprawl developments approved by the province on primary groundwater recharge areas, our globally recognized Grand River Conservation Authority decimated, and Planning Authority itself dumbfoundingly has been removed from the Waterloo region by the Doug Ford government. And now this massive mega-industrial land assembly forced on our quaint communities, municipalities, and region by the province without a single public meeting or even a study released to the public as to where the massive quantities of needed water will come from, as the gigafactories, AI data centers, and whatever is envisioned can use millions of liters of water per day at a time when we can't even provide enough water to meet the needs of our current citizens, farms, businesses, and developers. For the past 2 years, our farmers and landowners have made it clear, along with thousands of citizens in our communities, that they are unwilling hosts for such a mega-industrial site. Doug Ford has stated he would never force anything on an unwilling host. Yet, the provincial government continues to spend tens of millions of dollars forcing our farmers off their farms and proceeding with this gigaproject at the time that Trump tariffs and the collapse of the EV industry, and in fact many industries, makes any potential customer on such a massive scale highly unlikely.
Waterloo Region led the world. What should have been a model of sustainable success, Ford has destroyed, determined to remove red tape and build anything, anywhere, at any cost. It's costing our community and farmland, farm output, and less jobs and revenue. The solutions are simple. First, the province needs to cancel the Wilmot Mega Industrial Land Assembly, which met only 7 of 44 of the government's own job site challenge criteria. Second, we need to find additional local water sources and funding to repair municipal infrastructure negatively impacted by so many cuts to development charges. We need a moratorium on provincial water-taking permits and new gravel pits, and a reversal of Bill 17, so that we can ensure that the green development standards, water conservation, cisterns, green roofs, and simple solutions the rest of the world uses for efficiency and resilience. We need a food belt, or an expansion of the green belt to protect the Waterloo and Paris Galt moraines that we depend on for almost all of our water needs. We need the same protections and balanced growth that the green belt gives most of the GTA. And we need innovative new single-tier local government democratically elected by our citizens with strong planning authority and sustainable local official plans that Ford can't override. We immediately need the Ford government to reverse the destruction of our communities.
WilmotCAN has developed a huge map portraying 2 futures for our communities. A future with thriving agriculture and the properly planned growth that our local citizens and municipal government desire, or the sprawling, urban mega-industrial future of hyperdevelopment and massive unsustainable farmland loss being forced on our communities by the provincial government. This map shows the staggering scale of change. Thousands of acres of farmland and natural areas will be destroyed, negatively impacting hundreds of thousands of people in every direction. In the months ahead, we'll engage citizens across Waterloo Region and throughout Ontario with this large interactive map. Through education, we can continue to raise awareness on the need for citizens to speak out for the future that they want to see.
We are told by the Minister of Natural Resources and our MPP, Mike Harris Jr., that whatever this is will bring jobs, up to a, might I say, dubious number given the advancement in automation of 30,000. But at what cost? There is little of the needed infrastructure in a distant rural agricultural area that never anticipated any significant development. There is a single highway, a single power line, a single rail line that is already at capacity, an overwhelmed river and limited wastewater system, And as mentioned, not even water availability, as all possible water is being piped to distant, desperate adjacent cities in a complete development moratorium because of a lack of water. We are not against growth, but growth must be properly planned and in the right location. It must be transparent. It must be supported by the majority of citizens and in the best public interest. And it must be supported by the resources we actually have, especially something as fundamental as water. Right now, these conditions are not being met.
Thanks to journalists and activists, citizens are seeing patterns of secrecy by Ford. He's bypassing proper planning, foregoing public consultation, making up financial analysis without proper studies, and acting in the interest of a few well-connected millionaires. Hundreds of thousands of us are suffering a water crisis and development moratorium because of it. It doesn't have to be this way. Ford could work with Waterloo Region to stop the Wilmot mega industrial site, or relocate to inside the countryside line. He could provide funding to Waterloo Region to repair the infrastructure and solve our water crisis. And the region could lift the development moratorium and continue sustainable growth to continue as one of the leading economic engines of the provincial economy. Thank you.
I just want to thank WilmotCAN for being here today. I'd like to acknowledge that my colleague Ashlyn Clancy, MPP for Kitchener Centre, has been very vocal on this issue. And I'd also like to reach across party lines and acknowledge MPP Catherine Fife's work, the member for Waterloo's work on this issue, and we're happy to take any questions.
Mike, the Ford government's proposed changes to the Provincial Freedom of Information Act, and what impact do you think that would have on groups like WilmotCAN that are trying to find out what's going on in their own community?
Yeah, it's going to have a devastating impact if the bill passes, which it likely will because we have a Ford majority government. But I will call on citizens to engage in a people-powered pushback for honest government, truth, and accountability. The citizens of Ontario deserve to know who the Premier is meeting with on their behalf, how funding decisions are made, how land use decisions are being made in the Premier's office. The Premier, his cabinet, parliamentary assistants, they work for the people of Ontario, not for wealthy insiders. And the people of Ontario deserve to know, in an honest and transparent way, how their government is working on their behalf. And unfortunately, if this bill passes, citizens like WilmotCAN and others will no longer be able to access the information they need to be able to tell fellow citizens how the government's acting on their behalf. It's a boon for insiders. It's horrible for everyday people.
And in terms of economic development, what will this do, these changes for the Freedom of Information Act? We're told it'll speed things up, it'll make it easier to create jobs. What's your response to that?
Well, I don't understand how hiding what government does will speed anything up. If anything, it's going to slow it down. I mean, we were told when the Premier broke his promise not to open the Greenbelt for development, which led to the $8.3 billion Greenbelt scandal, that was all designed to facilitate housing. Well, Ontario has the lowest housing starts in the entire country, the worst housing crisis in the history of the province. We're not even going to build half the number of homes this year in Ontario that we need to meet the provincial goal of 1.5 million homes. Meanwhile, land use planners, builders, other experts are telling us we already have enough land approved for development. If the Premier would just say yes to changes his own housing task force put forward to legalize multiplexes and mid-rises, we could quickly build homes that people can afford in the communities they know and love within urban boundaries where we already have paid for infrastructure to support that housing development. And that's exactly what Waterloo Region, through the Countryside Line Plan, had put in place. So I don't understand at all what freedom of information has to do with getting homes built. The only thing it's going to do is to hide the fact that the Premier is putting the interests of wealthy, well-connected land speculators and insiders ahead of homes that everyday people can afford and ahead of our farmers who contribute $52 billion to Ontario's economy and generate over 875,000 jobs. 1 in 9 jobs in Ontario is in the agri-food sector, and that's at risk because of the Premier's obsession with paving over farmland.
What, if any, in your opinion, did the Greenbelt scandal, that RCMP investigation, what's going on in Waterloo Region, driving these proposed changes with the FOI provincially?
Yeah, the Premier clearly wants to hide who he's meeting with, who's influencing him, and that's just wrong. That isn't how democracies operate. The people of Ontario deserve honest government, and they don't have it right now. And the Premier is making that worse by hiding behind these proposed FOI changes. This is all about how the Premier can benefit wealthy, well-connected insiders and land speculators at the expense of everyday people.
So the Wilmot Group has filed, I believe, 42 FOIs.
Yes.
2 years later, they've received nothing. So these proposed changes, how could it get worse than that?
Well, what's going to make it worse is that it's going to make it retroactive. So they're absolutely not going to get any information. I mean, at least now they can keep fighting to get the information they need so people have honest answers. I mean, we heard from WilmotCAN, like, they're waiting for any public acknowledgement, like anything, any transparency. Like, what is this land expropriation for? What's going to be the implication? How's it going to affect their taxes? Like, how's it going to affect the agri-food economy? How's it going to affect the economy in Waterloo? They've had no answers, none at all. Their one hope is through freedom of information. And now the Premier is going to take that away and make it retroactive. So there's no way they will be able to get the access to that information. Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I can just comment on that directly as well. And very well said, Mike. The concerns with secrecy and privacy, particularly with this mega industrial land assembly, stem right from the very first day. Literally, we had the farmers who picked up the phone the minute that those lawyers left their land and to reach out to elected officials, and they were told by the people they had elected to represent them and be their voice that they couldn't speak to them because of an NDA. And we've learned later that the province forced an NDA in on everyone here, so that it was so frustrating at the very beginning, and to this day, still not to be able to get any answers from elected officials at the municipal level, at the regional level, or at the provincial level, because they're, quote unquote, all under an NDA. There is yet to be a single public meeting for this mega industrial land assembly. We're talking about something that will impact hundreds of thousands of people, change lives in an entire municipality forever. There's not been a single public meeting. Every single part of it has been happening in secret, private, closed room doors. We have a government in the Queen's Park here that was elected on transparency, and yet we see no transparency. We hear the Premier still talking about transparency while bringing in now this absurd Freedom of Information Act bill. A bill that is going to restrict the little bits of snippets of information. And you're right, we filed 42 different Freedom of Information requests, looking for just the simplest common sense questions that everyone in the community is asking. Who's behind this? What's it for? Where's water coming from? Where's wastewater going? How are you going to handle the transportation? Those questions that are in everyone's mind. Every single one of those Freedom of Information requests has been refused. We have received no answers and can still, 2 years after the fact, not answer any of those questions. And that is so against the greater public good. That is so against the best public interest. And why it's so concerning now, because we've spent hundreds, if not thousands of hours now of our community volunteers' time pursuing these Freedom of Information requests, taking it through mediation. And when mediation failed because of the belligerent approach of the other side, taking it to arbitration. And now fighting through arbitration for well over a year. And just when it looks like we might be close to perhaps getting some documents, and we're told there's thousands of them, it looks like we're going to get shut down. And this FOI law be retroactive and prevent any information coming forward. This is not in the best public interest. This is not for the greater public good. And there are so many things about this mega industrial land assembly about the water crisis that's being caused, and about so many actions we've seen from the provincial government recently that clearly just need to be addressed and need to be remedied and need to ensure that the public good is being put first.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
That's it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Tim.
Thanks, man.
Good job.
Appreciate it.
Great job.